Months ago, even before we knew anything, she just felt like he was the one. But I said, well, don't say anything. Let's just pray about it and wait. We didn't drop any hints to the Duggar family at all. We just prayed and were quiet. And God did a work in Josh's heart.
Special. She's expecting something when they come here next week, but not for me to show up in Florida and propose. I mean, that's not in her. I don't think in her wildest dreams.
Hey guys, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. It's Thursday, January 6th. I hope you're having a really good day. We are going to try to get to multiple topics. I am always late. This has been a really weird week for me. I'm just getting back into life. And do you ever get into topics and you end up in a wormhole or like a rabbit hole and you're just like, I can't get out of this? So it takes me a long time to do quite a bit of research for you guys. And if you are not following me over on Instagram, I have been putting out some details about the Institute and Basic Life Principles. And I was hoping that maybe you would go over there and follow. You can also do it on Facebook if you're not on Instagram. But my Instagram is at Without a Crystal Ball, and my Facebook is facebook.com/withoutacrystalball. Either way, I've been posting details about some of the teachings, and we're going to be diving more deeply into this group along with others throughout the year as we expand our coverage on, this whole world of not only the world of reality television with the Duggars, but just the overall arching, like how the IBLP infiltrated American society. So Josh Duggar has been the face of the IBLP recently because of his conviction. It's been almost a month since that went down, and we are at a point right now where pre-trial or post-trial motions are needing to be filed by Josh. So according to the world of civil or of court procedures in the federal government, there is a series that you go through once you go through trial. So you have like your pre-trial motions, your trial, then you have to go through the post-trial motions, sentencing, and then appeal. So when Josh was in court and at sentencing, his attorneys had asked for 30 days in order for them to file any post-trial motions, which at the time of his conviction was granted by the court. Well, now they're saying that they need an extension, and that's because there's been a delay in the transcripts, and apparently the transcripts are what they need in order to actually file these motions. In an unopposed motion, which they filed yesterday in court, they say that Joshua Duggar, through his undersigned counsel, requests the court grant him an additional 10 days to file post-trial motions in this case. The deadline would have been January 9th, which is Sunday, so it would have been January 10th. And it says on January 9th, following a jury trial, Josh was found guilty on both counts of the indictment, and at the time, undersigned counsel orally requested 30 days to file the motions, and the court granted this request. The defense has ordered the trial transcripts in this matter and have been informed by the court reporter that the transcripts are expected to be completed by next week. Because the transcripts are necessary with respect to certain issues Duggar intends to raise in his post-trial motions, Duggar respectfully requests that the court grant this request for a brief extension of 10 additional days in which to file his motions so that the transcripts may be utilized and so that this court will have more precise record from which to consider Duggar's motions. Specifically, he respectfully requests until January 19th to file any motions. So there's a footnote here at the bottom, and it says that based on the way the indictment was charged, the court stayed the possession conviction, and as it's a lesser included charge, it will be dismissed prior to sentencing. Now, that's not necessarily true. It has been stayed at this point, and they can still actually technically sentence based upon that one. But other than that, they're basically asking for more time. So immediately, I even got this wrong, to be honest. I thought that this meant that he was going to be asking for an appeal, but that's actually not what post-trial motions are. So when I went to the Office of the United States Attorneys, I actually looked up the criminal justice steps, and under post-trial motions, it says that the three post-trial motions that you could file as a defendant are a motion for a new trial, a motion for a judgment of acquittal, and a motion to vacate, set aside, or correct a sentence. So a motion for a new trial would be that the court can vacate the judgment and allow for a new trial. It's like asking for a mistrial after the trial is over. And this apparently is very rarely granted, but it may be done and it may be granted if the interest of justice so requires. And then the motion for judgment of acquittal, basically asking the judge to set aside the jury's verdict and allow him to go free. And then the other one was the motion to vacate, set aside, or correct a sentence. And that would be for the purpose of correcting a clerical error in the sentence, which he hasn't been sentenced yet. So the idea that he would somehow be related to a sentencing error is not. It's probably more common that he'll ask either for a new trial or for the judge to give him acquittal. During the trial, he asked for the case to be dismissed due to lack of evidence, and the judge basically said, like, there's plenty of evidence here. They have a preponderance of evidence, and so that was denied. So why would someone file a post-trial motion or ask for a new trial? Basically, what the federal government says is this. If you lose at trial as a result of an apparent error, you can file a post-trial motion to correct the error. You might file a motion for a new trial based on an error in the jury verdict. For example, a motion for a new trial might be appropriate if the jury finds a defendant liable but awards no damages, when plaintiff's evidence clearly supports the damages that have been incurred. Judges tend to give significant deference to juries, so these motions can be hard to win unless the error was obvious. They also said that another type would be post-trial motion for judgment notwithstanding the verdict. These are also very rarely granted, but a judge may grant this for a losing side when the jury's verdict was clearly not based on evidence. So perhaps the plaintiff failed to produce any evidence to support that necessary element of their claim, despite having the burden of proof, but the jury still found them liable anyway. In most situations, though, this type of serious flaw will be exposed before trial, and the case will not even reach this stage. So that's like what their explanations would be. So there would have been an error. Another one, that there could have been issues with the jury. Another reason why they could ask for a new trial is newly discovered evidence. So if they decided at the very last minute that they found evidence that proves that this guy was, remotely hacking and adding this stuff, because that was their big thing, the remote access. So if they have brand new evidence, they could say, we have new evidence that suggests Josh Duggar didn't do this. Or if there were bias with the jury or issues with the jury, that could also be another reason that they would ask for a new trial. Now, again, these are very rarely granted, but generally these are done and filed so that you can move through the stages of appeal. So you want to make sure that you ask for everything possible, and then the judge can review it. More than likely, the judge will deny most post-trial motions. And then after they go to the post-trial motions, the the prosecutors will have an option to respond. And so they will oppose the motion. So say that they ask for a new trial, they'll oppose it. If they say, the jury was biased, they'll say, no, they weren't. If they say, like, for instance, that there was new evidence, they'll say, no, there isn't. That kind of thing, that's very basic. After that happens, then they'll start moving on towards sentencing. So the sentencing hasn't even been scheduled yet. So there's a lot of people that have been asking, like, is Josh been sentenced? When is the sentencing date? When this all took place, they basically said that it would be about 4 months from the time of the conviction. So that would actually place the sentencing sometime in April. At this point, there has been no scheduled sentencing date. So they are still at a point right now where they are still, they're not there yet. So they have to go through the post-trial motions, then they're going to do their sentencing reports. So after the post-trial motions are over and the judge denies them, which is likely to happen, then what will happen is they will send in their reports for sentencing requests. So currently, behind the scenes, what you guys don't know is that the prosecutors are looking at a lot of different factors. They could very well be evaluating Josh's kids, taking into account, now that he has a conviction, doing the forensic interviews with the children and to see if he's done anything to them. They could also be looking at other extenuating circumstances, and all of this information is going to help them conclude what they will ask the government to grant him, or like say, we want you to sentence him to 20 years. And the judge then, it's always up to the discretion of the judge. So a U.S. attorney makes the decision, like, I want you to do this, and this is why. His attorneys will say, we want 3 years, because they always ask for way less time than they actually get. And then the judge will look at both sides and say, okay, based on my review of everything, this is what the sentence is going to be. And there's been a ton of talk about what the sentence will be. And without like speculation, all I can tell you is that when they offered him a plea deal, way in the beginning, they offered him 10 years. And it's unlikely at this point, having gone through the whole trial, that he would get less than 10 years. He could get anywhere from 10 to 20 years. But the U.S. attorney that was speaking about this said technically, even though one of the charges could stayed, the judge could still sentence on that, and they could run them consecutively, which is unlikely to happen, but he still could, on the very offshoot, get 40 years in prison, although very, very, very unlikely. The max he could get here is likely 20 years. They can tack on additional 5 years if they want to, based on the age of the children, so he could get up to 25 years. There's a lot that's at play here, and I don't know where it's going to be. We can't really look at the averages in this case because we don't have the full details. So right now, what we do know is the prosecutor said up to 20 years, but they could technically go up to 40. Long shot. So for some of you, you guys want him to put away for life. Unfortunately, that's not possible with these cases. Right now, he's currently in the Washington County Detention Center. So now the next thing that we need to talk about is Anna visiting Josh. So now that we know that he can file all of these motions, the next step is Anna and Josh. So Anna, there's a report, is being banned from seeing Josh. You know, there's always that like aspect of the titles and choices, which always gets you guys to click, right? So we went through and talked about the visitor logs. I had through December 27th when I had someone that's helping me in Arkansas do a Freedom of Information request with the detention center, and it showed that Anna was contacting him and she was doing everything virtually. Well, the reason that all the visits are virtual right now is because literally no one is allowed into the detention center due to the increased number of cases of COVID and the fact that Arkansas has like lower than average vaccination rates. So they have an uptick in infections right now, and the detention center is basically closed to the public. So what this means for Anna is that she cannot see Josh in person until the sentencing. So all of the communication that Anna has with him right now is going to be through video chat. And how the video chat system works is they have to set it up through Jail ATM. They use a website for visits called jailatm.com. And when you click on the link for jailatm.com, there's a couple options that you can do. You can send money. So you can sign into an account and create an account and then send that person money. You can email and make directly, and to send an email, it's $5. And then you can also do a video call. So a video call is basically where you set up a time to speak to the person via the kiosk. And these cost 25 cents per minute. So really everything that Anna's doing right now is costing a lot of money. There's different packages that they can receive that she could send to him, but in terms of her seeing him face to face, that will not happen. She will not be physically in his presence until sentencing when he's in court. So for right now, everything is being done virtually. And I said the only free way that she could contact him if she goes down to the jail, but because of COVID, they're not allowing people to use the lobby kiosks. So right now, Anna has been forced to do all of the communications from home. Now, there's been a lot of questions about where Anna is and what's going on with Anna and all of these certain topics. And so, you know, we don't really know a whole lot. There's been a lot of different reports about Anna potentially wanting to, you know, she's evaluating all of her options. She's really laying low right now. She's focusing on her kids and on herself. She's really trying to figure out how Josh is, and, you know, she's stuck with him. And In Touch put out an article yesterday basically saying that, Anna has stuck with him until the bitter end, and she is really evaluating everything right now because, her life has definitely changed, like very obvious, and that she is, looking at him as a fallen man, and she's evaluating and considering all options, which I don't know that that is actually true. I really don't know what's going on. But long story short, Anna has been in Arkansas. What she's not doing is spending time with her in-laws. So one thing that they said in the article with In Touch was basically that Anna is, everyone is rallying around Anna, and everyone is like supporting her. And that's actually not true. I don't know who they got that information from, but the sources I have spoken to said that there's a huge divide right now in the Duggar family. And part of that is that some of the brothers are just done with the fact that Anna will not open up her eyes, and she will not separate herself from the situation, and she will not see that he is guilty. There are some of the sisters that feel the same way. She is blaming Jim Bob and has blamed Jim Bob from the very beginning. She believes, I believe, that if Jim Bob and Michelle would have done more to help him when he was a kid, this is not where they would be today. And in a lot of respects, this is true, but the problem is that Anna herself doesn't seem to have any more viable options, because when Josh himself was going through problems in 2015, she didn't get him professional help. She sent him to Reformers Unanimous, and he read a Bible. So people like Josh just do not get better, and it's hard to treat them because generally it's an underlying issue that's non-treatable. And for Josh, because of who he is, I don't know. I mean, yes, there's lots of factors at play. They sent him to the ATI training centers, which was not going to help him. He grew up in a home with way too many kids, with way too much responsibility, with no accountability. There's a million reasons to blame and shift and say this is why this happened. But, for her, I think that it's easier for her to blame someone else than to blame Josh. So it's actually not Josh's fault. It's Satan's fault. Or if it's not Satan's fault, it's Jim Bob, who is basically Satan, isn't he? So apparently she'll talk to Michelle here and there, and then she talks to some of the sister-in-laws, although I don't know who. I don't really know who she's in communication with at this point. So Anna is not really like commingling with the Duggars, and that was actually happening before trial. So she was getting into fights and arguments with people before he even went to trial, and I don't know that that's really changed at all. I think that the family does care a lot about the kids, and the kids are likely spending a lot of time with the Duggar family, but it makes me wonder is if the kids are constantly with the Duggars, where is Anna? If she's not at the big house, is she just hanging out in the warehouse? They also said in the article that she's spending a lot of time with her siblings or her family, but I don't really know like if her family is up in Arkansas, because her parents live in Florida. Most of her siblings live in Florida, unless like Susanna's up here. The only brother that she has up here is David. And he's quite a bit younger than her, and he doesn't have any kids. So I'm not sure if she's spending time with David. The Reebers had a New Year's Eve party, and Anna wasn't at that party either. So I'm not sure where Anna is spending her days these days. But right now, she can't see Josh face to face, apparently reevaluating. Here's the thing. If she thinks that Josh is a fallen man, and listen, on the off chance that she decides to leave him, which we would be thrilled with, the problem is I don't know that she's there yet, is that every fallen man in regards to this cult can be redeemed. And that's the thing, is like, oh, she looks at him as a fallen man stuck in his sin. Well, if the fallen man takes responsibility, acknowledges, repents, and asks for forgiveness and repents to God, then they can be redeemed. So if he will not repent and ask for forgiveness, then he stays a fallen man. If he takes the steps to do better, acknowledge his mistakes, make his apologies to those in which he hurt, ask for forgiveness, and step away from the sin, which is really, none of this is really a sin. This is like criminal activity. But anyways, then he can be redeemed. But if he doesn't want to do any of those things, then he can remain a fallen man. And that's where Anna has to decide, is he going to take the steps? Is he going to take responsibility? If he doesn't take responsibility, he remains a fallen man. And that could be grounds for her to leave. So maybe we can hope that he just doesn't ever take responsibility. Maybe that's enough for Anna to be like, I'm done. You will not take responsibility now, and I'm out. So what are your thoughts about this? What do you think about the process for asking for a new trial or potentially asking for a vacation of his sentence? And what are your thoughts about Anna not being able to see Josh? Tell me in the comments below. Bye, guys.